AI is eating software. Accel Ventures every year compiles a very interesting report on the status of the art of what's happening in cloud and software. This year essentially has been all about AI, generative AI, and how this thing is going to pretty much revolutionize software as we know it. They also compiled what is called the Euroscape Public Cloud Index, which is a combo of a few thousand publicly listed companies in the cloud space. Basically, they're tracking exactly how the market are reacting to the different situation. Essentially, it's a good proxy for what's happening in software. AI is unlocking growth. So one of the big theme here is how exactly the introduction of AI is really unlocking new growing opportunities.
This doesn't look like a bubble. This is, the main players deploying billions into technology that they all believe in shaking the world in the next few years.
Starting from Tao Group raising 1.5 million from MiTo Tech Ventures in a Series B extension. So, very interesting deal. We mentioned Tao Group a few issues back. Basically, they're developing a high-performance magnetic wire, and the idea is to essentially support all the infrastructure that has been built around electrification in general, from electric vehicle to the supply of electricity. So that's kind of a new way of thinking about what's going to happen in the electric space. They have a special technology which is like a solvent-free enameling process, which is very interesting because not only improves the performance of wires, but is also environmental friendly and compared to traditional methods. So very interesting deal, very new material and a very interesting approach to everything that is happening in the electrification space, especially when people only look into vehicles, cars, autonomous driving, etc. Well, there is a lot of infrastructure to be built. So interesting deal. What's your take on this one?
I agree with you. Again, not my area of expertise, but it is interesting to see funding rounds in the supply chain for electrification of vehicles. I think the other thing that's important in this case is the investor and the fact that this is an extension of the Series B round. Investor MiTo Tech Ventures. So I expect that this is one of the first investments from the newly announced fund, the second or the third, I'm not sure, but they're moving fast and deploying capital quite rapidly in the market. So very nice. And I mean, that's it. So Series B extension is curious. Are they bridging cash? Are they entering because there's actually this opportunity and for their push growth for the startup? But I mean, still nice to see the guys at MiTo moving fast and deploying capital in hard tech companies.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool to see how exactly MiTo Ventures' strategy has been evolving. Basically, right now they're really focusing a lot on environmental transition, decarbonization, and net zero projects in general. So very cool, very different, very on par with everything that is happening. So it's a very interesting crossroad of new material, hardware technology, plus environmental and net zero. So very interesting angle, I would say. All right, moving on. Let's talk about CyberGuru, one of the biggest round in the past few weeks, I would say. So definitely worth mentioning. Cybersecurity education startup, CyberGuru, raising about $25 million in a round led by Riverside Acceleration Capital, Edu Capital, Adara Ventures, and P101. So we have both Italian founders, but also Italian investor with a very interesting combo of investor, I would say. So starting in general on how exactly what they're doing. So CyberGuru is essentially working in cybersecurity awareness training. So the idea here is that despite all the possible software that can happen. Essentially, the human factor is still like a very weak link. So the idea here is that training and the human awareness can really change the way we approach cybersecurity and improve it. So basically, these guys are working on advanced learning so that people can actually get trained in cybersecurity and all the threats that are happening. And being a sector that is evolving so quick, I can see how exactly the educational path can actually be leveraged. So very interesting angle. I don't know what you think, Nick, but I thought it was pretty unique in the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that it is interesting and, a perfectly complementary approach to the technological approach to cybersec. I can't say it is other enough. Cyber education it has been a thing for quite a while. The interesting thing about Cyber Guru is the way they productized the entire process of setting up an education platform and integrating technology in order to provide continuous and effective education to the workforce. And so I have to say I totally agree with you. And it's a very important component and approach to educating and making infrastructure more secure. I was taking a look at the investors. I think you made your research, but I think it is quite interesting who led the round. P11 was an early investor. I think they led the Series A inside the Guru. So it's always interesting to see this investor jumping into the round. But Resalis is the new player, and it is interesting that they led the round. New York-based debt, venture debt, and equity.
Absolutely, and the fact of being US based, the New York based, it's a very powerful way to actually get leveraged in the US space for fundraising. So definitely interesting combo. I agree with you, Nick. I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, if you take a look at the website, there's a specific section of about the way they invest, and I think it's nice. So growth equity. They look for B2B software for business, so enterprise, non consumer, in a 4 to 15 million ARR. Typically, they invest 5 to 25 in a 5 to 25 million round, deploy 5 to 15 million. So this is what we're looking at, right? So 25 million is the case at Guru. And they also do growth lending, so debt, not equity.
Very interesting.
It's not new. This is not new, but it's nice to see a player using both types of capital.
Yeah, I think the total asset under management of Riverside is about $500 million roughly. So it's a quite big fund, I would say, for this space. What is interesting is also the combo. So, of course, they do cybersecurity and education. Well, they got their cybersecurity investor and education investor. So, starting from the education investor is Edu Capital, based in France, Paris. 200 million fund, pretty much focused on European edtech companies. So interesting players, if we take into consideration the fact that not many funds are so vertical, so super interesting. And in the cybersecurity space is Adara Ventures, Luxembourg-based fund, around 200 million under management on multiple funds, with a partial focus on cybersecurity. So US fund for growth, a fairly big European fund for edutech, an interesting fund, Luxembourg-based for cybersecurity, and then of course P101 in Italy, which has been investing also before. So very interesting combination, and I think it's a good, also for the founder listening, I think it's interesting to always kind of, see how exactly a combo of investor can actually open up different doors for you. And this is a good example, I think. We don't know directly what was the rationale behind it, but in general, from what we can infer, that can be very, very strategic on different levels. So definitely kudos to the founders.
Agree. Nice.
All right, so let's talk about the Euroscape. So AI is eating software. So essentially, Accel Ventures every year compiles a very interesting report on the status of the art of what's happening in cloud and software for European companies. And this year essentially has been all about AI, generative AI, and how this thing is going to pretty much revolutionize software as we know it. So basically, the report started back in 2016, kind of monitoring and understanding what's happening in the industry. Very interesting insights when it comes to actually public listed companies, European and Israel-based companies, and how exactly they're moving the markets. So they're essentially tracking that. And as a matter of fact, they also compiled what is called the Euroscape Public Cloud Index, which is a combo of a few thousand publicly listed companies in the cloud space. And basically, they're tracking exactly how the market are reacting to the different situation and tracking how exactly they change over time. So very interesting report. Definitely take a look. Take a look also at the index. This is something that we've seen year by every year. Essentially, it's a good proxy for what's happening in software. Obviously, there is a selection, so there is definitely like some thoughts to be considered when considering this element. So I prepare for you, Nick, like a few bullet points, and I want to have your reaction on this. So let's get going. First one, AI is unlocking growth. So one of the big theme here is how exactly the introduction of AI is really unlocking new growing opportunities on different levels, not only in the big like cloud companies, but also in smaller privately held industries. Very interesting in the sense also that this is pretty much tracked in the public market, where actually we are up in terms of index, and that's probably due to AI. So definitely an accelerant. What's your hot take on this one?
Well, I have not take. I mean, it's in front of everyone. So the big sisters of the Nasdaq, so Microsoft, Alphabet, and the others are all betting their houses on Gen AI. So this doesn't look like a bubble. This is the main players deploying billions into technology that they all believe will be uh, shaking the world in the next few years. And behind that, there's Nvidia, being very happy that there's so much, competition and interest into this technology. So all the signals are there to expect a future with strong tailwinds for AI. We all know how much Accenture expects to get by AI-based projects across the world, billions. So I mean, the Accenture's customer are at least heavily experimenting with AI. So the big question mark is whether the current wave deployments will actually maintain the promises they made. But this doesn't really look like a bubble. It looks like a wave that's gonna stand and change the way we understand software for good. That's
Awesome.
that's my thought. Of course, there are problems
Totally.
here and there, but
Very interesting, and also you mentioned like how the big tech is really like sticking with it deeply and committing to it. So also from the report, it's interesting that they're starting sort of giving us a taxonomy on what's happening in the Gen AI league in particular. So we have, as you mentioned, the tech titans, the Google and the Microsoft. Then we have the AI majors, which essentially is a company that reach like very powerful AI milestone. Think of OpenAI, think of like other companies that really are working extremely fast, extremely well. And then you have essentially the AI challengers. So anybody that's trying to build and challenge part of what is happening in Gen AI. So very interesting taxonomy, definitely a good way to think about what's happening in AI. Other point, it's the idea that from high growth there is way more focus on profitability. So introduction of AI also is supporting profitability of companies, and the report is really underline how growth is not enough. Profitability is pretty much a big component, and AI is definitely leveraging that. So. What's your thinking on that in terms of growth and profitability sort of interaction?
From the point of view of the users of AI, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. This is a feeling. I'm under the feeling that the basic promise of AI for anybody who's looking at it is about efficiency, doing more with less. So this is my current
100%.
impression. And that can be a good proxy for discussing this point. I mean, I'm deploying AI in my infrastructure because instead of paying one for a specific task, I will pay 0.5. I don't know, something like that. That's the expectation. And from a certain point of view, if that isn't true, the project will be a failure from the customer point of view.
Yeah.
Still, from the market point of view, I can relate to the push for profitability. I mean, the economics of AI are still a bit shaky, if you want. The costs are coming down very quickly, extremely quick. There are a lot of economies of scale that are starting to operate. Whatever we paid 2 years ago, we are paying 1,000 times less today. And I believe that there's I think there's a wide expectation that unitary cost per token or cost per whatever you want, will continue going down. This is the thing that most resembles a bubble in a positive way. Think of the railways bubble. When back in the 1800s, everybody was investing in railways because the future is railways, and a lot of people went bust because it wasn't true. But what we got were a lot of railways. So infrastructure, and this is similar. So everybody is purchasing NVIDIA, NVIDIA GPUs. Everybody's setting up data centers. They're starting to deploy a lot of energy, so they have to build new energy power plants to serve electricity to these new data centers. This infrastructure that's got their made. And even if local players will go bust, the infrastructure will stay there.
Interesting.
And this is interesting from the point of view of the future. So
that's an interesting parallel, yeah. Yeah. So kind of the models and the GPUs are kind of the base railway on top of which peoples are going to move faster, slow, or with how many wheels we don't know, but that's the analogy. Very interesting, very, very interesting. All right, let me also kind of leading from profitability to agentic AI models. So that's another huge topic, and the report is really pushing how exactly agentic models are moving fast and pervasively. And I know, Nick, you have a soft spot for agentic models. So, and it's there for task optimization, writing code, just from the simple explanation up to who knows actually.
Well, I love it. I mean, yeah, you said it, I love it. But what strikes me as crazy is the speed with which we got here. So 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago, there was ChatGPT. So we had this synchronous interaction with a chat interface. Everybody was like, I can talk to my computer, and the computer replies back with some thoughts. No, nice, beautiful, synchronous communication with your computer. Last year we had copilots, so simultaneous interaction, but not synchronous. So you worked, and your copilot was there with you, working together with you. And today, so just 24 months, we have asynchronous work. So agents that are doing things as while we are not working with them. It's like, I mean, wow. And
Unbelievable.
this,
Good point. Yeah, good point.
so think about the speed that we got, with which we got here, and uh, there will be, of course, a lot of bumps in implementing agents with success, because a lot of stuff that we think is easy, it is not. If you need a machine to work for you in a setting where you are not overseeing it, we'll get there, of course. But the idea is, wow, it's probably software as it should have been since ever. So, I mean, I'm very bullish on agents.
Very exciting. I agree. Very, very exciting.
Salesforce is that they're betting their house again, doubling down on agents. So they think they will have billions of agents by next year. So.
And what strikes me is the accessibility of those agents. So literally, you don't even need to code them, and it's the bar to actually access your private agent doing something is every time simpler and simpler. So yeah, pretty powerful, very, very powerful. All right, wow. So let's go. Let's regroup a bit after the shocking things, and every time we talk about AI, there is always something extremely, extremely powerful. Maybe if you can give us a rundown of the latest, like a few news that we missed, maybe in the past few weeks. Yeah, please.
I think that's what's worth mentioning is Probius. A healthy food company who announced they're launching a VC initiative to back healthy food startups. And that's interesting, another corporate VC player. I know you love it. In terms of new funds, we have 360 Capital announcing 360 digitally at 30 million euros first closing, and already deployed capital. I think they made 4, 5, 6, more or less-ish investments. So congrats to them for being operating again with a new fund. And finally, last week we had Fondazione Social Venture Giordano del Lavoro and Calico Factory announcing a joint investment program with the goal to deploy up to 60 million in impact-related ventures. It's not clear to me whether this will all be equity or programs with acceleration, incubation, and support to impact-related ventures, but that's quite a bunch of money that I think is coming to market. So interesting also to see that there is capital coming in, and good opportunities for strong founders.
Awesome. All right. So that concludes this week's episode of the Week in Italian Startup. Thanks everyone for joining in, and I'll see you next week.